and hold that journalistic integrity, hopefully, to high standards and never reveal the sources when they don't want them revealed. This man was a missionary in a city, and they were working in a Bowery section of the city, very, very, drug addicts and very poor, a lot of street people. There was a team of 4 of them, and they were praying at the rescue mission, and then they went out to the street, and they encountered a very tall man with extremely pale skin, who had a very dark overcoat on, like a trench coat, very strange-looking man, and they engaged him in conversation. And they were all very uneasy with this man and the presence, and they just felt like something was not right, not good. And yet this person with the pale skin and the dark trench coat seemed to know everyone on the street, seemed to sort of have sway with people, the homeless people, the drug addicts, knew who everyone was. Well, the leader of the team, of the 4 people, had a very uneasy feeling. He was there with his wife, a woman, and some other man, and he pulled his team away from dealing with this guy, and they left. Their lives went into an absolute tailspin. The woman that was with them, not the husband and wife, but the other woman, died mysteriously within a year. The husband and wife had a series of mishaps, misfortunes, illnesses, to the point where they left the ministry and they went on sabbatical and to try to just deal with what was going on. And this is all, he tells all this, the husband tells all this to me in written form. Well, the Lord told him specifically that he would see an angel at some point, and the Lord would tell him when the angel would appear. And one day he got sort of a tap on the shoulder, and he drove to this place where he felt the Holy Spirit tell him. And I realize this is all, kind of woo-woo to a lot of people that don't travel in this, but I believe every word of it. I believe the man's testimony. And it's not extra biblical. It's God's alive, and he likes to interface with people. This man needed a healing, and he got his healing, and I'll tell you how it happened. He was told to go to this place in the mountains where you kind of overlook the valley below. And it was snowing that day, and he pulled into the parking lot, and he realized he was the only car there, and he walked up the steps and hiked up into this plateau. And again, he was the only footprints in the snow that day, and he walked onto this large like plateau and walked to the end of the trail and had a beautiful look over the valley and the cities below, but didn't see anybody and was sort of disappointed. And he returned, and as he returned, there's this elderly man with white hair and a white beard that is walking towards him. And he's sort of taken aback by that, and he's wondering if, where did this guy come from? And they talk, and they just have a normal conversation, and I forget the guy's name. It was a very odd name, though. I have to look at my notes for that. And so he returns to his car. When he gets down there, he notices, first of all, there's no other car that's in the parking lot, number one. Number two, his footprints and his footprints alone. So the other man sort of appeared from nowhere. And when he told me the story about this, as is often the case, sometimes when we're involved in being touched like this, touched in this sort of way, it's sometimes it's hard to understand what happened to us, and it takes an outsider to put the pieces together. I believe he had an angelic encounter, and I believe that just the presence of this visitor, which, by the way, remember, there were no signs in the snow, and this is out in the middle of nowhere, no other car, the footprints just kind of appeared out of nowhere type of thing. But I believe it was an angelic being, and I believe the angel was sent to take what was put on that man from that figure, that tall, pale, thin figure in the black trench coat, who literally put something on those 4 people, resulting in one death and the husband and wife just losing their ministry and going into just a very dark time in their life. And he once I said that to him, and he realized that his life was changed and everything was reversed from that encounter with that man. Everything was reversed, and they came out of it. He's now back in full-time ministry. So, look, this man who was in the city with very pale skin, very tall, the dark overcoat, I'm not saying it was a hybrid, but that's what, if I had to guess, that's what I would come down at. I would say that these guys encountered a hybrid being, very malevolent, and did something to these people. There you go.
Can we define with any degree of certainty who they are?
Well, this is the $64,000 question. The New Agers will tell you in no uncertain terms. The people like Georgios Tsoukalos will tell us that they are extraterrestrials from the Pleiades or Sirius or wherever. I believe that no, these are not extraterrestrials. These are, in fact, interdimensional beings, i.e. fallen angels, masquerading as aliens, and this is all part of the Great Deception. In my book, The Cosmic Chess Match, and in other books, I have spoken openly that this deception, part of it, hinges on a Darwinian theory, because Darwinism cuts the knees off or cuts the legs off from under the Christian worldview. It's already done that. Darwinism is taught in academia. It's taught in the scientific community. It literally is sacrosanct. Christianity has been supplanted, usurped by this Darwinian theory, and yet it begs the question. Darwinism does: where did we come from? Where did mankind originate from? And this is what Ancient Aliens does. Ancient Aliens has all this and says, well, maybe we were seeded here by extraterrestrials thousands of years ago who messed with our genome, outside agency, and created all life as we know it on this planet, and manipulated early man and started the world civilizations, and our ancestors worshipped them as gods. This is what the ancient astronaut theory, the bottom line, that is what they are promulgating for the most part. When we look at movies like Prometheus, that's exactly what it is promulgating. That if you haven't seen the movie, it in a nutshell, it's talking about panspermia, that life here was seeded here and evolved, and where this guy goes out in space looking for his creator, and he finds them. And the creator is sort of a Nephilim being. He's like 10 feet tall, and he promptly kills the guy. So not a really nice person.
But again, coming from the perspective of somebody perhaps hearing this really for the first time, the reason we're talking about this now, not only because of the deception, the coming deception, but I do believe that this Luciferian agenda, which we are beholden to, or well, not beholden to, which is attempting to really overtake us. When we talk about the Illuminati, the elite, this common thread of these people who believe they are the illuminated ones and higher than us, and of course they're very special. And in the final countdown here to the end of the days, when these spirits come back, when these ETs, these people come back, they're going to come back and basically say that they're the cousins of the people, certain people already here, and claim lineage to perhaps a lineage of Cain or something very similar to that. I mean, there's parallel theories. But so what you're saying is we're looking here at an extra, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but are we not looking at really something that predates the creation of man, or the garden, a pre-Adamic type of situation here?
I believe, and I realize that some of the young earthers will have problems with this, and I understand that. Yeah, in my opinion, we don't know. No one knows really how old this thing is. I believe it's a lot older than the 6,000 years that's, with all due respect, that some of the young earthers talk about. And I don't want to argue it, but that's really what I believe. I've also, and the reason for this is that we have the fall of the angelic hosts. We have the fall of Satan. So, by the young Earth creation model, the angels are created, and then 24 hours later, there's a rebellion? I just find that hard to believe. I just have a problem with, okay, God creates these guys, and then somehow a third of the host, that we get that number from the Book of Revelation, decide that, well, this God stuff, I'm not going to bend the knee, and I'm going to rebel and go with Satan. It's like, what? Where did that come from? I think this thing is very, very old. I think man and women, modern Homo sapiens sapiens, are extremely new. In other words, when we just look at the world model, we seem to have history spring up between 10 and 12,000 years ago. That's when everything really kind of starts. Mankind just kind of shows up and starts doing stuff, right? About 10 or 12,000 years ago.
Right.
That's very new. In the far distant past was this whole thing created. We don't know how far back it goes. But I'll say this. I believe it could be, in fact, literally, and I know that I'll get all sorts of flack on this. The bottom line is it's a very long period of time, and it allows the fallen one to rebel. And when he does, he sets up this war in the heavens. And the war in the heavens, we see it right from day one in the garden, where there's some people like Clarence Larkin, Pember, and others will hold to this idea of a second creation, that the earth was destroyed once, and then we see in Genesis 1 sort of a recreation of the earth, which makes a lot of sense to me. So something very cataclysmic happened. I know the late David Flynn also held to this view, that the asteroid belt that we see today could have been the result of this war, that the monuments on Mars might have been what's left over from this great cosmic war. So Father God creates something new, in my opinion, to replace the third of the hosts of heaven. And he's not creating angels again. He's creating something new. He's creating men and he's creating women. And who do we see in the garden? We see the fallen ones show up and say, surely God didn't tell you that, because the day you eat the fruit, your eyes will be open. You'll be like God yourself. Once again, that lie is being promulgated in a lot of different New Age circles today. You can become God. Shirley MacLaine standing on the beaches of Malibu. I am God. I am God. Shirley, I'm sorry you're not, with all due respect. But so we see that right away that there's evil, and that this evil has a face, and it inhabits the serpent, which at that time did not crawl on its belly. So what was this creature? What did it really look like? We really don't know. But it whispers in Eve's ear and entices her, you'll be like God, and if you eat of this fruit. And, of course, she does. And what was the fruit? I have no idea. But whatever this thing is, she eats of it. We also know that, skipping the book of Revelation, that the tree of life is there, and that there are 12 trees, and they are for the healing of the nations. That's what the fruit is. So there's something going on with this, and I don't believe that's metaphor or allegory. I believe it's real. And I don't understand how that works, because it's written in there and no one's seen it yet. All I know is that the war is already in full swing when Adam and Eve are placed on this garden in the world. It's already going. It's already here. And frankly, with that in mind, it opens up the idea that if there was something here before it was destroyed, then it makes sense that I spoke to an anthropologist today in South Africa. And this man is very, very smart, and I don't agree necessarily with his dates, but how do we deal with some of these ancient finds that are there? I mean, the skeletons are there, and they're not modern humans. They're not modern Homo sapiens. They're not. So what are they? Where do they come from? And, we can be ridiculous and say, well, Satan planted them there to deceive us, which I find really hard to believe. Or we can say, perhaps there was another creation here. Something was going on before this creation, and God wiped it out because it wasn't what he wanted. And knowing what the fallen angelic hosts were doing right after that in Genesis 6, and we read this in the book of Enoch, we read it in Genesis 6, in the book of Jubilees, the fallen angels descended in the days of Jared on Mount Hermon, and they began to procreate with the women of earth, creating this hybrid being known as the Nephilim. And